easy. Oh, they put us through it. They put us through it, don't they?
Where are you, Albert Einstein? Fuck off, Roger Federer. Someone else who sounds vaguely Italian. You as well.
Oh,
unbelievable.
All of my giddy aunts, every single person that's ever been called Gordon or Bennett. But should we be surprised? We've beaten them on penalties before.
Penalties, it's just what we do.
Unless it's in a final, it's what we do.
Yeah.
Oh, England won, Switzerland won, 5-3 on pens. In front of Prince William, no less, Andy Brassel.
Yeah, it gives it that little bit of extra oomph, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is he still president of the FA? Is that still a thing?
He's president of penalties.
Call your brother, mate. After a win like that, call your brother.
He wasn't there. Oh, dear. Ladies and gentlemen, England... They're there. They're in the semi-finals of the Euros. It seemed unlikely for most of the time watching England at this tournament, but they're there. And as we've said before, you'd rather be a lucky general than a good one.
Yeah, I think what this has made clear, the reaction to all the teams that have got in the semi-final, and part of it, of course, is because 3 of those came through extra time games, and 2 of them came through penalties. Netherlands, Turkey, as we'll come to in a bit, was really intense, even though it didn't go to extra time. That at this point, the time for discussing where we should be tactically, what this team could be, how aesthetically great we might be, and maybe it should be. None of that matters. None of that matters anymore
Andy,
for any of these.
It does to some people on Twitter.
Yeah.
It really does matter to some people on Twitter. The celebration police, they're there. They're out there. They are there.
You would rather, as someone put it to you after your tweet about Southgate, you'd rather play well and not get this far, because that's what football's all about.
It is what football's about. And as I said, that's what England were in the last World Cup. Yeah. England were really good in the last World Cup, and people, I think this idea that Southgate never played attacking football and England were not exciting under him, again, other than the US game, which was piss poor, England scored, up to the quarter-final stage, more goals than anybody. Only Argentina and France score more goals than England at that tournament. They played 2 more games. I think it was 3 more goals each side scored.
And I cannot emphasise this enough. It should have beaten France in the quarter-final.
England
played well enough to beat France in the quarter-final.
And this
we'll
is
get our revenge, mate, don't worry.
Football is a funny old game, because there's no doubt that in that tournament England were attacking the high press. All the stuff that we want England to do this tournament, they did it in that tournament, which is why I think people are critical now, because this is actually a bit of an exception. I understand it's not been swashbuckling under Southgate, but it seldom is at international level with most teams, we should say.
Exactly.
And it's a shame we've lost Turkey in some regard, because they have been a little bit more swashbuckling in moments. So you could say Dutch maybe, but either or.
They're on a full galleon, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. A galleon that's going home.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, is that at some point, Luke said this a couple of matches ago, at some point, if you get through and you keep getting through, you've got to go, well, hang on. There's something going on here. And let's be honest, it wasn't great again from England. I thought I did agree with the sentiment that it was their best performance of the tournament, but that doesn't actually say that much, if you see what I mean. I thought they were okay in this game. They didn't really create any chances. The goal was a beauty from Saka. It was what we talk about, those moments,
It felt like the only place a goal was coming from. Like one of those exceptional players being exceptional in the moment, really.
Yeah, totally.
And you could argue that it was the same with Bellingham against Slovakia.
Well, yeah.
It's like a sense of, you do have those great players for great moments. Maybe not for... I don't think it's reasonable. We've talked about this again and again, to expect an entire great 90 minutes or 120 minutes or anything like that. But having those players does mean that you have access to those moments.
Yeah, it's not... I mean, if... in the semi-final, if Mbappe skins 2 players and stuffs one in the top corner, Spain are not going, well, that's not fair. Well, you did. That wasn't a system-based goal.
The detail to this will not be important in... Well, I was going to say 6 months, a year, 6 years. It won't be important in like 10 days.
If England managed to do this, you're absolutely. I mean, Rio Ferdinand made the point on the BBC recently. He said that when when they have their get together with I think maybe it was the last title win inside It was obviously under Ferguson. It was 2012-13. I think it was that team. Forgive me if it was another season, but I think it may have been that team. He said, if we have our get-together, people slagged us off and said we were the most boring title winners, or it was a team he played in, certainly. Boring title, they didn't win. He went, do you think we care?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, with England, of course, when they play in the semi-final, it will be, in terms of occasion, certainly a step up. And if they were to get to the final, they're going to play a very, very good side. But we said after the Slovakia game, that Jude Bellingham goal, some people thought, is that just prolonging the agony kind of thing? How important will that goal be? Well, it could well be. It could turn out to be one of the most important goals in English football history.
Yeah.
And it's proved its worth, because even if England lose in the next game, of course there'll be, Southgate and it be blah 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 blah. But just winning a penalty shootout again, it gives the confidence. It's something. It's a great moment for an England fan. You've got to enjoy this. I understand it wasn't pretty and it wasn't what we want to see, but my goodness, winning a penalty shootout as an England fan, it's still an enormously satisfying way, an enjoyable game, and what a great set of penalties as well.
Yeah.
All 5 scored. And do you know, when it went to penalties and it started, it's easy to say, but it wasn't in hindsight. I felt this at the time. I just thought, we're not losing this.
I had that sense as well, and it was mainly down to the fact that you could pick the 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was very, very clear who... And
did it without Kane as well.
Yeah, well, he praised on France to a point yesterday when we talked about them going to shootout without Griezmann and Mbappe. And even the fact that like Palmer steps up first and you're like, well, he takes penalties all the time.
Yeah.
And then Tony comes in and you're like, well, he takes penalties all the time. Saka takes penalties all the time for Arsenal. We are Pengland. and that's just what we are now. So,
oh my goodness! I mean, yeah. Bukayo Saka, that smile when he scored, when that goes in, it's our day today.
That was his Stuart Pearce moment.
A lot of people have said that,
and approached it in a very Saka, interpretation of Pearce's scream.
Well, it was exactly that.
But more so than Pearce, because of the abuse he took. Do you know what I mean? Like, more so that meant, like, it was such an incredible moment, and that smile as well. Like, it was bigger than Pearce. The comparisons, of course, are going to be there. I understand, but obviously, he didn't make the decisive kick, and there was none of that.
But he suffered worse, much worse,
immeasurably worse. And
I think, I don't know if you saw this, but did you see Jadon Sancho on Instagram post
I didn't. No.
Saka's celebration and basically said, "I'm so happy for you. Thank you for doing that for me and Marcus as well."
That's lovely.
Like it was
Marcus
very,
Rashford.
Marcus Rashford, yeah. Well,
maybe. Yeah.
But it's weird. I didn't really think about it like that at the time, because he's taken so many penalties for Arsenal that he made the miss.
He treated it like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah,
even though it
shows you the mindset.
Yeah.
Incredible mindset to do that.
And like so I didn't really link the two immediately until after it went in, and I was like, I'm glad you've had that.
Well,
could Declan Rice have inflated a unicorn for him?
Well, maybe he already maybe he has. Maybe he has.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching this in a bar, and there was a Scotsman next to me who happened to support Arsenal, and even he said, "Oh, please, Saka, don't miss."
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, and what was so satisfying was to see Ivan Toney doing what he does in the Premier League, taking it to that stage and just going, well, yeah, I'll do exactly the same thing.
But I always felt
it was extraordinary.
I don't even know who you are.
When he came on for Kane, there was that sense of, oh, well, at least he's not going to miss a penalty.
Well, I thought he was going to bring him on anyway, which perhaps he would have done.
He should have done it earlier. I mean, we'll get into that.
We will. I mean, we've got to start with the penalties, of course, and then we'll work our way back. But that where he stares down the keeper again when he's playing for Brentford, and he gets a penalty in the Premier League, there's not a huge amount riding on it. Obviously, you want the 3 points or a point or get back in the game. Also, it's not the same.
Yeah, also, none of us support Brentford, and that's the first time I've been on the anxiety side of it. I'm like, he's going to do his little thing now.
But also against Jan Sommer, who's a decent penalty saver. Like the way that
didn't look it.
Yeah, who's normally a good penalty saver. And Tony, I mean, Tony staring at Jan Sommer could have been sucked in with those beautiful eyes and that face, Andy. But God blimey! And what was wonderful as well is that Trent Alexander-Arnold got his moment, as if, he'll be completely happy and he won't want to play another minute. But he got a moment which he will always cherish. And Southgate's been saying that to him after, he was tried in midfield, and that's unlikely, very, very unlikely to happen again. Southgate has been in his ear the whole time saying, stay focused, you'll get your moment, I'm not done with you and you're not done with this tournament kind of thing. And he comes on, and the way he whips it, I mean, it was beautiful. And Pickford, of course, saved a penalty because that's what he does. He always saves at least one in a shootout for England. And I think what was nice, what was also really reassuring just before the shootout, I don't know if the cameras picked up on this, but when or some of the audience, but when there was, the cameras panning around and so on, Gareth Southgate was stood there with his players, and it was like, oh, do we want that? And he stood there and he went, don't worry, lads, I came here for a shootout! And my goodness, he got it, Andy.
They didn't pick that up, did they? What do we think of Pickford's water bottle?
Well, did somebody make the point that if he'd have actually read it, he would have gone the right way for Fabian Schär's penalty?
Right, okay.
No, I haven't checked that, but somebody did say that.
Pickford gets so in his own head at those moments. It's interesting.
What a place that must be.
Exactly.
Up there. What's going on?
Who was he pulling?
A magic roundabout.
Who was he pulling the face to? It reminded me of Darren Goff on his run up.
Oh, sticking his tongue out.
Yeah. Where he's like pulling these really weird faces, and you think, does he even know he's doing it?
Yeah, I just think he just does it.
No,
I wouldn't like if one of his children in the garden taking a penalty, I mean, he'd probably do that.
I mean, I imagine he's had all the information from a goalkeeping coach that you could ever have. It feels like that it's almost like a comfort blanket. The sort of guide.
Yeah.
As you say, maybe he doesn't refer to it as he goes on, but it helps sort of, keep him present in the moment.
Well, the Schär penalty is the first one on the list. I've got it up here, and it says fake right, dive left.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah. Although when I was reading through it, I wonder if he ever gets confused and looks at it and just thinks, right, dive left. My left, take his left. I'd get in my own head about that.
Schär's, his penalty was very composed, actually.
Akanji's was... That was a terrible penalty.
I mean, I'm always sort of inclined to say a terrible penalty is one that misses the target. So,
I mean,
but in terms of it was very savable.
If he'd have, I suppose the alternative to that is if he'd convinced the goalkeeper to go the other way, then it's a good penalty.
Yeah, but
if it just rolls its way in, but when it gets saved, it looks terrible.
I mean, it's interesting because Pickford wasn't at full stretch for it because obviously he didn't need to be.
No,
but think about Shaqiri. Pickford knew this guy's going to whip it into one of the corners, and he was at complete full stretch, and it was a gloriously.
I mean, it's almost
penalty.
As if he'd have told him where he was going to put it. He wouldn't have been able to
exactly.
save it.
And I think that's the thing that you can say all you want, that is often with Kane, his preferred penalty under real pressure is to whip it to the goalkeeper's right.
Yeah.
Well, the goalkeeper's got to effectively wait for him to kick it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But
I think that's the thing, isn't it? That what I said about that Shaqiri penalty, you could apply that to any of those England penalties.
Yeah.
Really, because they were so incredibly good.
In Alexander-Arnold's, I mean, what a way to win the game, And again, I was surprised actually that Sommer didn't dive that way. Even if he did, I'm sure he wouldn't have saved it. But Trent was always going to whip it. If you and believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, some of you may not be aware of this, but if you'd watched the ITV coverage of this game, then you would have heard Joleon Lescott say, "Oh, he's going to whip it." Now, of course, the game was on BBC One, which is where we were all glued to. Mm-hmm. Whereas ITV were going to, and they did show the game between Netherlands and Turkey. But in the build-up to the game, England obviously is still playing. So we had this Soccer Saturday situation on ITV where Laura Woods said, we're interrupting our coverage because England has gone to penalties. And you've got Joleon Lescott, Karen Carney and Gary Neville watching penalties on screen for you. And I thought to myself, if any fool has turned this on, it's like, just flick over to BBC One.
Yeah.
It was like, I understand. They basically did that for the pundits.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Yeah. My only regret was that Graham Souness or somebody who's not got a vested interest in it.
Roy Keane would have been the ideal.
He'd have been fuming.
Souness would have been better.
Souness would have just been like, why are we watching this? He would have been literally on live TV.
Thoroughly unprofessional.
It would have been so good.
Yeah, and it's both funny and terrible TV.
Oh my goodness, yeah. But I can't blame them. I can't possibly begrudge them that. So yes, only the second time in 10 major tournament shootouts that England have scored all their penalties. Of course, in Euro 6 when they beat Spain, they did that. Alan Shearer, who scored that day for England in that shootout, did scream when Trent scored his in this shootout that we're talking about now, "Pressure is for tyres!" Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a bit mad, haven't they?
I do.
Everyone's got a little bit mad.
But England have won 3 out of 4 penalty shootouts under Southgate. I understand one penalty shootout where they clinch that third place playoff in the Nations League may not rank very high.
Why bring the Nations League into this?
Well, it was Switzerland again.
Ah, fair.
Yeah, everything's a platform for the Nations League.
I know. Yeah.
And obviously, when it in the final they didn't do it, but Southgate did talk about reassessing it and again tightening it up and so on, and they can only do so much on the sideline. The players have then got to do it. But again, what was reassuring was the fact that the players were so cool, calm and collected. But especially for England's team, they have a pretty decent record in penalty shootouts. But let's go to the game itself, gentlemen, because there was 120 minutes of not the most inspiring football that was played before this. England, of course, went to that 3-4-2-1 formation that everyone thought they would. Ezri Konsa came in and had a pretty good game, let's be honest.
He did.
And that was reassuring that he can just slot in there and obviously knew his job well. And
do you think they'll bring Gay back?
I think they will.
Yeah.
But
he has played very, very well, Gay.
Yeah, he has.
You could argue he's been England's outstanding player, actually, to that point, couldn't you?
You might do, yeah. But it's reassuring that Konsa's there as a great backup. But in terms of everything that went on before the penalty shootout, Andy, what did you make of that?
Well, so much was made of by people I spoke to and people who were watching the game that it was a far improved England performance in the first half. I felt it was a gently improved performance.
I'd agree with that.
Just like the tactical changes sound sweeping on paper, but in reality, it's not really a huge. It's just a little tweak.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Especially with Saka still out on the right and Trippier still out on the left. Now, I think people expected if they moved to 3 at the back, maybe it would be the other way round, and that's why a lot of people argue that Trent Alexander-Arnold would be the ideal person to play on the right instead of Trippier. But I think it's very Southgate, isn't it? Even when there are sweeping changes, it's like sweeping with a toothbrush rather than a broom.
Yeah. There was only one change, and it was Gay because he was banned, and actually Konsa was the only.
Well, but in terms of the system as well, you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, that's.
But to back up your point,
yeah. But after half time, I still felt that the first half, even though it was gently improved from England, I got to half time. I thought Switzerland would be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, they weren't particularly troubled. I mean, clearly what England were trying to do was get Saka on one-on-ones with one of their defenders. That was what it was to shuffle that. And
I mean, really, the goal is even though it comes when England are under the cosh and desperately need it, in terms of the way the match is going, the match result is going. It's kind of gently building up to that point because the whole game is built towards Saka doing something special.
Yeah,
isn't it?
He's got to try and give him as much space as possible.
Exactly. Even in the first half, and you can just see when the ball goes out to him for the goal, when the ball goes out to him on the right, that it's like. As soon as the ball comes to him, it's like, right, this is my moment. I'm getting a shot off here.
And it's such a great goal as well.
It is. It's so satisfying because you know what he's going to do. The rest of his teammates know what he's going to do. Switzerland know what he's going to do. But there is actually no way of stopping it because it's such a high quality bit of play.
And Summer's got bodies in front of him, which is why he can't really react.
Yeah, and he kind of reacts to it like it's a cross that's gone into the far corner.
Exactly,
yeah.
I mean, you're right, Andy. I thought England, as you sort of put it there, gently improved. But I mean, again, they didn't really create any chances.
No.
And
it doesn't help when your striker's not really in the box.
Well, yeah. So what did you make of the formation and everything with regards to that, Vish? I mean, I would suspect he probably will do it again. But did you think that with 2 10s behind Kane going forward, do you think that worked?
Well, it got more out of them. And the way I look at it is, if we consider that trio up top together, if you can get something out of 2 of them. And let the other one be.
Yeah.
It's probably this way around, isn't it? You're getting something out of Bellingham, you're getting something out of Foden, and Kane is in this weird little moment, but you kind of back him to maybe poach a finish here or there.
Yeah.
I suppose you would take it this way around. At the same time, I'm quite worried about Kane because he's not going to get dropped.
And he's not going to get fit.
Yeah, and he's not exactly that. Yeah, and it's clearly an issue. You know, it was. I suppose it was the. It looks like the same issue that had him withdrawn during the Champions League semi-final because in any other situation he's not coming off in a game of that magnitude, but he had to, and then he didn't play for the next couple of weeks. Is it?
He didn't play until he came on as sub against Bosnia at St James's
Well,
Park.
there you go. So
it was much more serious than they thought it was initially.
Yeah, and he looks totally like.
They can't move.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he said going into the tournament, he said, I feel fit. And he said, actually, I think I've had almost like a bit of a rest going into the tournament.
But he's not going to say anything.
Of course,
Kane
he's not
said
going to
that
say
before
that.
the 2019 Champions League final, didn't he?
Yeah.
Again, a game that you're reaching games of such magnitude that a player is never going to, and especially Harry Kane, who's used to playing every game, is never going to step out unless he gets hooked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost as if the bit where they took him off, where he had that coming together with the kanji, wasn't it?
They had to throw him onto the bench.
And he tumbled over the esky, didn't he? Briefly sat on that and then ended up sitting down. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. We should probably bring you off.
Yeah.
You know, it's like landed in his lap.
He probably couldn't get up anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, I mean, Kane will start because he's England's greatest ever goal scorer. So I understand that. I'm not in favour of dropping him.
It's not a Ronaldo situation, but what you're saying is Ronaldo logic.
Yeah, and fair comment.
If
but
you know what I mean.
I do, yeah, and I think. If England were to say, I mean, I know he's only played 20 minutes, but having Watkins running in behind, I think that Foden and Bellingham would really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, because there's more space for them as well.
The only time we've seen that in the whole tournament was when Foden slipped in Watkins against Denmark. Yeah. And it was a good save. I mean, and this
that seems like it didn't really happen because it's such a rare bit of play in this tournament.
Indeed. And I mean, look, and this is it, Andy. England are into the semi-final, and I'm talking about a moment which resulted in a save from the keeper in the second group game. You know, England are not creating chances. How far can they go with whipping these great moments and pulling them out the bag and penalties and last-minute goals and all the rest of it?
The thing is,
I mean,
as I've said from the start of the tournament, they have been tied together with France for a long time. Yeah. In that these were the two favourites for the tournament going in, several months away from the start of the tournament. They're going into the tournament with similar problems. They have developed similar problems as the tournament goes on. And they'll probably meet in the final having those similar problems all over again, and seeing who has that little bit of quality that can just break the game open. But if there was reason to be encouraged by this, as well as Saka stepping up, which is absolutely huge, and again, he's one of those players who's definitely looked tired in parts. And as I've said all throughout, you can say what you want about Southgate. The massive, almost insurmountable problem in terms of the way that England are playing is Kane can't magically get fit. No, and Bellingham can't get less cooked. And those are two massive problems that would be a massive problem for any coach in any tournament. But what we saw yesterday, as well as Saka, we saw a few little flickers of Bellingham, which was not. Now he looked dead in extra time. Yeah. But in the 90 minutes, we saw him able to run with the ball and go past players on a couple of occasions. Yeah. We saw him win that free kick and booking off Fabian Schär, which was very enterprising, by the way. And I think you look at that and you think, okay, if it is going to be tight, if it is going to be attritional, but there's someone who can grasp a moment, there's more reason in the last couple of games to believe that it could be Bellingham again. Yeah. Whereas in the group stage, just like in the knockout stage of the Champions League for Real Madrid, you wonder, is that really possible? Yeah. And it seemed to be edging towards no, whereas now I feel more optimistic about that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I thought he might actually bring on Gallagher just to kind of bit of energy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But when you see Bellingham take his penalty like that, you do have to have a tiny thought about penalties. I think sometimes. Well,
the only reason let's be fair, the only reason Southgate makes any changes at all is because Switzerland score.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
And that in itself was a problem. Well, because you could see England falling back and
not doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine to say you're absolutely right, Vish, because it's fine to say that England aren't going to win this tournament playing dazzling football, and Southgate's aim is not for England to win this tournament playing dazzling football. But to go through that second half in that completely reactive pattern, which the natural conclusion to that, if you're not creating anything, is extra time.
Yeah.
Now, because of the state that Kane and Bellingham are in, that plays against you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's the problem. So we're not talking about footballing philosophy.
Yeah.
Everything that Southgate has ever done in a tournament is based around not the best case scenario, but getting the best out of the players as they are. So it's like, I know, my dear nation, you would love to see beautiful football. That is not how we're going to win a tournament. And that has been the way he has looked at things. We're going to do it by chipping away and taking our chances when we get them. But the thing is, if you leave it and leave it and leave it and leave it, it's putting you not in a better position to win the game, but in a worse position to win the game.
I agree, yeah. And of course, he brought on Palmer, Eze, and Luke Shaw. Now, that was actually quite a positive, I thought, when Luke Shaw came on. I know he's only come on for a short while, but it was a highly pressurised environment, and he stood well. And you think to yourself,
did. And
could he start?
I think the shape helped. The shape of the team helped, because if he's an orthodox left back there, I think it's an issue. You see Luke Shaw make his first run forward, and you're like, God, he's not moving great, is he?
Yeah.
But when he's actually on the ball, you're like, okay, right, I get it. You know?
Yeah. So he may well start, which I think would be a boost potentially, fitness-wise and all the rest of it.
You don't think Southgate's going to persist with Eze left wing back?
He's done a great job at left wing back.
Yeah, I mean, he's
come on in the last couple of games.
It's still weird.
It is weird.
It is a bit weird. I mean, would you rather Eze there than, say, Trippier? I mean, certainly got a lot more going forward.
Well, Trippier, interestingly, I felt like he got further forward yesterday, and it might just be the nature of the role he had to fulfil.
Yeah.
He didn't... Switzerland didn't really do anything to England for that first half. Well, certainly from my perspective, anyway. But yeah, like we're still lacking something.
Definitely,
there,
you're right. I mean, England did neutralise the neutrals, I suppose. They did neutralise it, and people can say that was good. Okay, or a very base level it is, and we know that Swiss side are a decent team. They managed to get a point off Scotland, for crying out loud.
Yes.
But really, with the players England have, However, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Switzerland are off the back of a very good win. They have their system, and they've looked better than England.
They have looked one of the most coherent teams at this Euro.
Exactly.
If before this round, and maybe actually through this round, the most coherent teams, I'm not saying the best teams,
sure.
The most coherent teams are Spain, Austria, Switzerland.
You're right.
And there's no doubt about that.
And two of them are out.
Yes.
And this is the thing.
Yes.
I think now, this penalty shootout win, what it's done is, for large sections of the England fans, is they've gone, all right, lads, just let's go. We're with you. Because to say, you're right, with the teams who have been coherent and all the rest of it, to suddenly think, okay, England, we're going to click. This word we keep hearing is click. There will be no clicking in the way that we want or expect.
All you need to do is click into tournament mode.
Yes.
Not to say what we would like to happen.
Yep.
What we have to say is what is possible within the parameters of what there actually are.
Indeed.
And let's adapt to that. And that's how you win a tournament. That's how you do well in a tournament. That's how you get the most out of a tournament.
Indeed.
It's like, so Germany got to a point in World Cup 2014 where it's like, okay, we've got a centre-half, we've got a right-footed centre-half at left-back.
Yeah.
Fine. France got to a point in the 2018 World Cup where it's like, okay, it's this lopsided 4-4-2, and we are just going to close it out against Belgium and frustrate them in a semi-final when people think we should be playing them off the pitch. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because if you win it, it's all fine.
Well, indeed, Spain 2010. People will think, but they were a glorious... Well, actually, considering the talent they had...
It was possession to conserve energy, not to carve other teams apart.
Exactly.
People always remember the Euro 2012 final.
Which was different.
But that was the outlier, not just with the 2010 World Cup, but with the rest of that tournament.
And even in that 2012 team, which was, of course, one of the best we've seen at international level, they needed to win a penalty shootout on the way, as they did in 2008.
They played really boring football until the point where they got to the final, and then they tore Italy to bits.
And is that the England way this time round?
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, the other thing we should mention is, you could argue, and certainly Swiss fans will argue, they probably should have won it in extra time.
What, with Shaqiri clearly shooting from a corner?
Yeah, well, they just had more chances, didn't they?
They had more pressure. They chances.
That was a good save.
The one right at the end as well.
They looked more likely. They did look more likely. They'll be gutted.
There was a sense. It was quite interesting to see them rather than England going, should we have a little go at finishing this?
Yeah.
That was the interesting thing. And when you bear in mind, like, not only do they not have as good players, but also Xhaka, and he talked about it after the game, who has been like one of the most influential players in European football this season.
Oh, absolutely.
And in this tournament, was completely diminished. We heard about his injury further in the week, and he said, well, I couldn't shoot. I couldn't play any long passes because just my thigh wouldn't have it, basically. And yet, he finds a way to affect the game.
Although I thought
really
Mainu did all right on him, though.
Mainu was excellent in the first half, I thought.
Yeah, so
England's best player in the first half.
Yeah, again, so he's a good addition.
He plays again in the semi-final. There's no doubt about it.
Surely, and I think he probably will go with this system. The only thing I would say with regards to getting into extra time, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, everybody, but I really wanted him to bring on Gordon because Switzerland were tired, and I just thought a bit of pace up there and so on, but.
It's kind of the worst case scenario, isn't it? That's a reason he doesn't bring on Gordon, because he thinks if Gordon runs forward and loses the ball, then immediately his space is vacant.
That probably is it.
There to be exploited, which is I'm not a fan of that way of thinking, but I think that's what's his mindset.
I think you're absolutely right, but you're right as well, Marcus. Where is the space to get around Switzerland? It's exactly in that spot.
Yeah, totally, yeah. But when all said and done, it's England's third major semi-final under Gareth Southgate. I mean, I would say fourth because of that Nations League, but there we are.
I feel like
so
I
it's a third.
and it's
You're spent, Marcus. I feel like I should tuck you into bed now.
I would love that, Andy. I would love that. Yeah, go on, England. Come on. We're all with you. And do you know what? I mean, if England can do it, so many people would be so conflicted. I hate Southgate, but we won, but yeah.
No, the detail disappears, and those Twitter moaners who you've underlined will simply disappear.
Yeah.
But Southgate has to win it though to shut certain people up.
To get rid of the moaners, absolutely.
But I mean, maybe I'm jumping too far ahead here, but I think from what we've seen at this Euros, and as impressive as Southgate has been throughout his tenure, I feel like either way, this should be the end for him.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So I think I think if anything, what's going to drive England for the semi-final, and touch wood from an England perspective beyond, is maybe actually just doing it for Southgate.
I think so. I think there's something in that, and I think that the belief in that they have in each other, the way that they have kind of. Again, in the group stages, you could see them shouting at each other. It wasn't right. And I think that what you said earlier, Andy, and you touched it as well, Vish, it's kind of like, we are where we are. It's not suddenly going to turn into Brazil 1970. Do you know what? Because it never has.
Yeah.
And suddenly all these England fans who are football purists, I'm a bit like, well, okay. I mean, I understand that with the players maybe could get a bit more, but everyone's a bit tired. It's a proper battle, and they've gone, right, it's a band of brothers now.
Yeah,
but
it is what it is.
It is what it is, exactly. And it's kind of like, right, let's just try and momentum our way through this tournament in a sense. Let us find the belief and whatever we can do to get through.
Let's get the halloumi on the grill. Let's get the Kalamata olives out. It's 2004.
Now you're talking.
But like that. Just sorry, I realise we're labouring on this point a bit, but Southgate's biggest strength as a manager, and thus the biggest pro of this squad and players he's had before, or groups of players he's had before, has been the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
But that's a huge part of international coaching.
It's been underplayed.
Of international management.
You look at the way they were reacting to the penalties yesterday. Yeah. The fact that they seem to have a designated congratulator to everyone who scored the penalty, someone who wasn't taking a penalty. Things like the deep breaths. I think the way that they celebrate at the end. Obviously, they're incredibly happy. But ever since Southgate's first tournament, where he basically. They leave the tournament after a meeting where Southgate says to them, remember this, none of you will be in this position again because it will be a completely different squad. The nature of injuries, blah, blah, blah. We have been thrown together, and these are our memories forever, regardless of what any of us may go on to do in the future. And it's really hard to cultivate that and keep it going with different sets of players, but he has. And England, as a football team, as a, dare I say, nation, are better for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Coming up in the second half, we have got that Netherlands-Turkey semi-final, of course, and a little mention for Bielsa's Uruguay. See you in a moment.
English media, typewriters ready please. He's going to talk about Harry Maguire now. Hoe vond je hem de laatste tijd? Hij pakt rood tegen Watford.
He's really shit.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody.
Put that on the dressing room wall.
Do it for Harry. By the way, did you notice that Harry Kane was referring to Bukayo Saka as B? In his post-match interview, because well, B, we know what he's got and so on. And I thought they always call you H. Is this like the most base level nicknames going on in this game?
All it makes me think is that they are two of those people who sign off their emails like that.
Yeah, well, do you know what?
Their texts.
Andy, I thought to myself, I don't know. It would seem odd that Harry Maguire being an ever-present in the England squad up until this one, of course. Maybe you've got two Harrys, so one's called H, one's called Harry. There's not another Bukayo in there, is there?
Yeah, exactly.
No, true.
I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the Dutch going through against Turkey. 2-1, of course. A very different game to that England-Switzerland one. We did say this, that a bit like when England played before and it was Spain v Georgia, it was kind of, this was just a tonic to get us all revving again on the
This was the pudding.
This was the, yeah.
It's quite a decadent pudding.
Very decadent pudding.
You've made it through Mum's Sunday roast and extra sprouts. And
she's overdone the beef. The potatoes have been absolutely incinerated. But it filled us up. It filled the gap. It filled the gap.
It did.
Netherlands, it's a great win for them against a hectic and hugely enjoyable Turkey side. I think one could agree.
Turkish couldn't have done any more.
No, and talking about those emotional highs and so on, that's what they were all about, of course. Yeah. And with that enormous supportership that they have in the stadiums, of course, because of the Turkish diaspora and obviously people coming over from Turkey. Erdogan was there. Would say it was nice to see him, but that would be a lie.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, he only made his diversion to Berlin in reaction to Mary Demirel's suspension, which has become a massive diplomatic incident. Because he was on his way to Azerbaijan and made a little detour to Berlin.
Yeah, so, yeah. And on that alone, I'm glad the Dutch won. But yes, a lot of that kind of bollocks, sadly. Anyway, we'll move on from that. But it was a really enjoyable game, and end to end at times. And how many last-ditch blocks, by the way, from defenders and big Wout Weghorst and so on and so forth. It was you really, really had to go some to score a goal without a defender trying to get a block in. This was great to see.
This was like the greatest FA Cup quarter-final you've ever seen.
That's a great word. It was very FA Cup-y.
It was a bit FA Cup. You're absolutely right. Vish, what do you think of the Dutch? Because they were derided in the group. I mean, there was even people in Netherlands saying, Koeman's rubbish, he should go and so on. Again, as Andy often points out, England is not the only country that is critical of their national team manager.
Yeah, but we do it better than anyone.
Well, I would argue that. But they've picked themselves up, and in the knockout stages, scoring a few goals. Yeah,
well, because they're just very direct as well, and they're kind of. I keep thinking about Andy's like FA Cup not there, but like it feels a little bit like that, doesn't it? Like they play it like a cup competition, in that they're just very back and forth. Even someone like Dumfries, he's nominally a right back, but he doesn't spend much time there, does he? And like Gakpo loves, just basically doing the right-footed left winger thing all the time, really, and because of that, they seem to have a bit more thrust. I think what's also helped them, weirdly, I wonder, and Andy, please correct me on this, but like missing Frankie de Jong, has probably changed the focus a little bit because Xavi Simons is in there, who can do his own thing. Like Schouten and Reinders together they have moments where they look like world beaters. Like Reinders in particular, like he looks like. I don't know where his ceiling really is, but he looks like at the top of his game, he can boss an entire game. But he's just shown flashes of that. Although in the round of 16, he was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a really good point to make on the Frankie de Jong thing because such a crucial player for them, and such a particular type of player as well.
Yes,
you lose him. I mean, it's not the same, of course. But let's say England lost Declan Rice just before the tournament. Obviously, different type of player, and get that. But in terms of like a really crucial player who's an ever-present in the side.
And plays a particularly pivotal position.
Yes.
As well. No, you're absolutely right.
And so Koeman's done well to kind of patch that up.
Yeah, going back to what Vish says, I guess it's like, I feel like the Dutch, since they've come out of the group, and maybe the pivotal point is where they lose the final game in Berlin to Austria, because
thus putting them on the better side of the draw. Though.
Yes, but what's the pivotal bit about it is Koeman gives them the mother of all bollockings behind closed doors and in public afterwards, and says, look, this ain't good enough, basically. In that typically, going back to our break ID, blunt Dutch way of doing things. So I think we talked before about
but it is really culture. It's going to be a real kind of clash of cultures, that semi-final. England, as we know, will be very indirect.
Yeah.
The Dutch will be very direct.
But I think
it is funny.
Sorry to interrupt, Karen.
That idea of, did you get criticised a little bit, did you, by the media? Oh, no. Oh, how tough for you.
Yeah.
But it's funny, going back to what Vish was saying before, and going back to what we were saying really about this tournament, like, in a tournament, you can either think how you would like things to be or adapt to how they are. Yeah. Now, it feels like the Dutch have clicked really quickly into that tournament mode since we've got into the knockouts. Now, the thing is, I don't think it's a philosophical thing, and always we're talking about Dutch football philosophy. But as Vish says, Koeman's mind has been made up for him on the way to play simply by availability, because they lose Frenkie de Jong before the start of the tournament. They lose Martin de Roon, who had a great season with Atalanta, who is a very different player from de Jong, but can protect that defence. Now, they lose Teun Koopmeiners, his club mate as well, again, a Europa League winner with Atalanta. And so they get decimated in midfield. So all of a sudden, this great defence that they have on paper is totally exposed. So what's the most Dutch reaction to that? It's attack.
Yeah.
It is attack. And really, that's what...
Wouldn't see us doing that, would you?
but that's what...
Very uncouth.
That's what they've done, because they've kind of been forced to.
Yeah.
Really.
And they're in a semi-final, and I'm sure that, yes, we know that England, in terms of the draw, if England were on the other side of the draw, they probably wouldn't still be in the competition. I think I don't think anyone would argue about that. And you don't choose your opposition. So is there good fortune? Well, there was good fortune in winning the group, because Denmark couldn't beat Serbia, but they did win the group to put them in that side of the competition. But of course it's fortunate that France don't win the group, so they're on the other side. I understand all that, but no one would say that about Netherlands. No one would say, they were lucky because they finished third and they're in this side of the group.
The thing is, with the whole third placeness of the Euros, it's actually really great, because it makes it so much harder to pick where are we going to land.
Yes.
There's no sense of, right, if we win the group, actually, maybe if we finish second in the group, it'll be better for us. Yeah. You can't tell until it's actually happened, almost.
You're right. And look, again, no one is oblivious to this. England are in the side of the draw, which has helped them, because, as I say, if this was Germany, in the second round with if Denmark's score against Serbia, that's what it would be. I honestly don't think England would still be alive. But who cares? It's again.
I don't think you can know that.
Of course you don't know that, Andy. So there's no point in pondering it. You've got to play the ball where it lies, and England are there, and they're going to play Netherlands in the semi-final. But it is interesting, as you say, with Netherlands, where they've ramped it up, because against Romania, they're favourites, but they're there for the taking, but you've got to take them.
And they played really well.
And they win 3-0. And they're on the march. And against Turkey, a side who have been enjoyable to watch by and large, a side with great momentum, great support, all that kind of stuff, but with a bit of quality in there as well. Let's not patronise them. They go 1-0 up. The Dutch, again, from the jaws of defeat, okay, it was 20 minutes to go, they equalised, but they got through. They showed character, getting two sort of quick goals. And that man, Wout Weghorst, comes on and makes the difference again.
Which is on both ends.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a funny thing, actually, Vish, because they made the similar subs in that they hooked Bergwijn at half-time, just as they'd done in the last game. But Koeman, picking a horse for a course is quite clear there, because he picks Daniel Marlin because he thinks, okay, we're going to get space on the counter against Romania. And then he thinks, well, get Weghorst on and just create chaos against the Turkish. And both of those substitutions worked in very, very different ways.
Andy, do you think new Burnley manager Scott Parker texts Wout Weghorst saying, great work, mate, plenty of that in the Championship next season?
I think he's...
Are you still with us?
He's probably left his phone in Sinsheim just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't receive your messages.
He probably put it in a microwave in case the government was listening.
Or Wout could message Vincent Kompany and say, look, I mean, I'm currently in Germany. Why don't we just? You're staying. Would you like me to stay too?
Do you need a Choupo-Moting?
It's so weird, isn't it? Like he's
brilliant. He's such a wonderful anomaly.
Oh, yeah, but you try and pin down what he does beyond like looking like Slender Man, and you don't really know because it's so. It's just about energy, really.
Yeah,
you could lop a foot off him, as in like in height, and he'd still do the same thing. And you kind of wonder, why is it so effective for you to be doing that and not necessarily someone else? Why does it work so well for you?
I know what you mean. Like, why bringing on that type of player seems to give them a bit of a lift. It gives them a focal point, perhaps. Which...
Yeah, because Depay wants to be a false nine, which is fine, but he wants to be like a one-touch false nine.
Yes.
But then when you move him out left, he actually holds the ball up better.
Well, I mean,
or when you move him out wide, even
because he's a wide player. That's
yeah, of course.
You know,
I don't know about that. For me,
here he comes, defending your little Memphis here.
Maybe for me, Memphis.
Go on, put your headband on.
With who cares on the back. For me, Memphis is a centre forward and a very good one. But in this particular game, what worked best for him was being out wide, and the fact that they brought on Weghorst put Memphis in a spot where he could influence the game more.
Yeah.
And I think that made a huge difference. It wasn't just what Weghorst did, it's what he allowed his teammates to do.
Yeah, and I think also when, if England are going to, obviously they're going to do the research into the Netherlands.
You'd hope so.
What would help them is that their substitutions pretty much run on clockwork, don't they?
Yeah.
That, obviously there's Weghorst, but they kind of make changes in certain areas at certain times.
Made the double midfield change about halfway through the second half. Yeah.
So there's a level, I wouldn't say predictability, because you still got to do something about it, and every game is different, but I think for someone as meticulous as Southgate, it's something that you can map out.
But no, I did feel going into this game that the Netherlands were quite a good match for Turkey because, as we said, they're lacking that defensive midfield cover at the moment, and that's quite exposed them at the back. And the Turkish do have those players who can drop in there.
Gula being the obvious one.
Yeah, obviously. And he has been... If they'd have gone to the semi-final, I could have seen him becoming player of the tournament.
Well, yeah,
he has been so good.
Yeah,
and again, it talks about freshness, because he missed a huge chunk of the season, came back like a whippet in the closing stages of the season. He's just carried this on in this tournament. He's looked absolutely brilliant and full of energy. But you think Barish, who... on the other hand, has played a lot of football for Galatasaray this season, has been brilliant in this tournament. And he kind of drops into those sort of areas as well. Kenan Yildiz, who, again, wonderful to see someone get substituted and then get sent off.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of tournament mania.
Yeah.
But I think, I looked at this game beforehand and I thought those players will flourish in those gaps where the Netherlands are the weakest. And I just wonder if, I thought for the Switzerland game,
come on, Andy,
the wide players would influence it more.
Yeah.
And eventually, that didn't quite transpire, but Saka did, certainly.
Yeah.
Saka made the most of the rejigging of the system. I think it really worked for him. If England go into the semi-final with the same system, which I think they will, and which we all think they will, agreed?
Yeah.
Right. I think this is the game for Bellingham and Foden. Because, as I said, the 2-10s, the Swiss picked them up really well, and they did that really well against Germany when Musiala and Wirtz had basically no influence at all. Yeah. And even though we saw little bits of Bellingham, I felt that like Bellingham and Foden didn't massively influence the game. This is their game. This is.
Shall I go? I don't feel comfortable here.
But this is the moment. They don't have to play brilliantly for 90 minutes, but I think there will be the spaces for Bellingham and Foden to win the game for England against the Dutch.
Saucy. Very, very
Now put your
saucy.
trousers back on.
All right. But we have to wait for that Dutch semi, of course. Was Xavi Simons lucky to only get booked for his early challenge?
Oh, I think so.
On Mert Mulder?
I think all their better players should be sent off. Retrospective
you could tell from the way he protested, it was like a forced protest. It's like, if I protest, it will look like I think this booking is unjust.
Yeah.
When really it might be a red.
But that's his face. He looks like he's constantly lost a scoop of ice cream from the top of his coat.
Fair enough. But Andy, your beloved Turkey have gone out of the tournament. Do you feel...
Well, weren't they great?
They were great. Do you feel...
Because
obviously a lot of people have slagged you off for not having them as dark horses in the last tournament, the last Euros, where you threw everyone a curveball and cleverly picked, was it Czech Republic?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Who reached the quarterfinals, beating the Dutch on the way there. But Andy, despite the misinformation, which is all the rage these days, do you feel well, let's press into that. Do you feel vindicated, though, that Turkey have had a good showing and got to the quarter?
I mean, my God, I didn't expect to see this coming. I did not see this coming at all. Now, of course, when Montella comes in, he turns around the qualifying campaign. They finished top of the group. They went away at Croatia, which was amazing considering where they were at the midway point of the qualification campaign. But still, you can never know what's going to happen in the final tournament because there is that potential for chaos. We talk about pressure on national teams. I can't think of many national teams that there's more pressure on than Turkey. Now, as I said from the beginning, what's the difference? Montella is the difference because Montella is not one of these overseas coaches that they've had before, like great coaches as they are, but you think
there's a disconnect.
Hiddink phoned it in. Basically, he was like Klinsmann before Skype existed.
Yeah, Klinsmann Skypes it in. He zooms it in.
Whereas Montella has been out there, has coached teams in the Turkish Super League. He has done, as I said to you before, that Sven-Göran Eriksson thing of going to loads of games, of creating relationships with the clubs, of creating relationships with the players.
Yep, all right.
Steady.
Any more relationships?
which is really important.
Yeah.
And he understands that there are points where you can't tame the beast.
No,
you have to lean into the madness sometimes.
And he said that, didn't he? In the was it the previous round where he was like, "That the Turkish heart. That's what it's all about."
He gets it.
He gets it exactly. And
whenever they've had brilliant players, specifically forward players, they really do embrace them, and that's something that really comes to the fore. Not just with the talent in that Turkey squad, but I suppose the age profile as well.
Yeah.
Well, they're the second youngest squad in the in the competition, and they kind of let off the leash, aren't they? They kind of play as you expect young, expressive players to play.
Yeah, they've been a great credit to the tournament, but they've gone. And there's only 4 left.
The spirit of Nihat lives on.
What about Hakan Sass? He was a favourite.
Yes, he was good. Yeah,
he was.
Loved the rainbow flick.
Didn't we all?
Fantastic.
Great haircuts too.
Didn't we all? How about that? Well, there we are.
It's cheating over there, isn't it?
It'll certainly be discouraged. Now, little mention for the Copa America, as I say. Marcelo Bielsa's Uruguay beat Brazil on penalties to go through to the semi-final of the Copa America. I tell you something, Brazil not having a good time of it recently. No, I mean, I know they won the Copa America. Would it be 2 editions ago now? But
no, I don't know.
Not been to in terms of World Cup. It's
Ronaldinho's not watching either.
Is he not?
Well, do you remember he said at the start, didn't he, that he wasn't going to watch this Brazil team,
even though he's texting Vinicius for tickets.
Yeah, it was very petty.
I mean, speaking of Vinicius, of course, he was suspended for this. So I wonder. I don't want to excite you again, Marcus. I think you've had enough excitement for today, or Rio Ferdinand. But maybe this is the point where Bellingham can take the Ballon d'Or.
Ooh.
If he has a big semi-final and a big final, because Vinicius, no further involvement in the Copa America.
Do you think if Bellingham did win the Ballon d'Or, he would say, this one's for England? Are you still thinking about that semi-final loss to the Dutch?
Will he grab it?
So they're going to place Colombia in the semi-final. And in the other semi-final, Argentina face Fizz's old team, Canada.
It's not his old team.
It is.
It's not his old team.
Show some fucking respect.
No, I won't. I will not.
I can only applaud you.
Thank you
for vicing this in.
What was it? He was assistant manager for 6 months or something?
Yeah.
Assistant coach. Sorry, manager's a bit, but...
Yeah, so it was his old team. Now it's Jesse Marsh's team, though. Impressive. Big Jesse's there.
Did Fizzer recommend him for the job?
I assume so. Pulled
a few strings.
So, yeah, it's all to play for.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.